Think of a sleek, low-slung shape cleaving the air, the sound of its engine unlike anything else on the tarmac. This was the Mazda RX-7, a car that dared to be different from the instant it hit the streets in the late 1970s.
You get a lot of refined sports car with the Mazda RX-7. You also get great mileage, and you get it all at a price that'll really make you look twice.
Yeah, the more you look.
Shaped by the oil crisis and touched by a market bent on fuel efficiency and restrained designs, Mazda went the other way. The RX-7 wasn't built just to be another sports car. It was made for people who wanted to feel the road as they drove. But what really lay under its hood was the revolutionary Wankel rotary engine. This unconventional engine wasn't about power, but delivered a driving experience and a signature sound that still echoes today with car enthusiasts. But what made the RX-7 a legend? Get into the thick of it all with us as we go down through passion, from city streets to the track that has kept its name alive. I know some of you are already wondering, what exactly is a Wankel rotary engine and why did it make the RX-7 so special? Don't worry, I'll break it down for you now, and we'll dive even deeper into it later in the video. Stick around. By the end, you'll understand exactly why this engine gave the RX-7 its legendary status.
The rotary-powered Mazda RX.
Wankel rotary engine. Now, what exactly is a Wankel rotary engine? Most car engines rely on pistons that move up and down to generate power. The RX-7, however, was different. Based on a unique principle, its rotary engine featured an inscribed triangle, a rotor spinning inside a rounded housing. The rotor, instead of moving up and down like common pistons, made a circular motion to provide almost effortless power with quiet and smooth delivery. This different design made RX-7 quite unique from any other car of that time, and provided the driver with an experience totally unlike any other car. But this was but the beginning of the tale of the RX-7. It started with the rotary engine. Mazda's big break, the path from Cosmo Sport to RX-7. The story of the RX-7 really began with Felix Wankel, a German engineer who, during the late 1950s, created what would become known as the rotary engine. He was the up-and-coming automaker. Mazda, which was mostly unknown at the time apart from its trucks, recognized the potential in Wankel's design. But one man, Kenichi Yamamoto, a visionary Mazda engineer, believed the rotary could be the key to transforming the company and putting it on the world stage. There was just one problem. Early rotary engines were not so reliable. The first prototypes would seize up in just a few hours of operation. However, it soon proved that this promising rotary engine was much more complicated than conventional engines, and required precision engineering and careful design, so many in the automotive world had their doubts about whether Mazda would ever get it to work. Yamamoto didn't give up easily. He and his team at Mazda worked without a break to solve the problems along with this rotary engine. But its breakthrough was a tiny yet vital piece, the apex seal. This allowed the rotary to continue its motion without excessive wear and tear, and at last gave it the durability required for daily driving. After years of experiment and development, Mazda launched the first ever rotary-powered car, the Cosmo Sport, in 1967. Although it was meant to be an on-road vehicle, the Cosmo showed that there might just be life for the rotary in the sports field. Little did the world think that more than a decade later, Mazda would show it a car that would change the face of the sports car industry, the RX-7. The first generation of the RX-7 was first released in 1978 with a chassis code of SA22C. Mazda had planned the RX-7 to replace its earlier generation of rotary sports cars, and it instantly gained a reputation as an icon for the brand. Its design was simple, yet handsomely elegant. Clean-lined and low-slung, its profile seemed almost carved through the air in its conception. With the light and agile nature of the Lotus Elan, a British sports car, Mazda took its ideas and placed them into the RX-7. The result was a car weighing in at less than 2,400 pounds, exceptionally light by any standard. One of its most beloved features, the pop-up headlights, added a touch of futurism, which made the RX-7 even more cutting-edge for its time. Underneath, the RX-7 had a small and efficient engine, the 12A Wankel rotary. While it was by no means massive or potent by modern standards, it granted the car a nearly perfect 50/50ths weight distribution key to its remarkable handling prowess. The light-footedness and poise of the RX-7 allowed it to slice corners with unprecedented accuracy, making for a driving experience that was both as intoxicating as it was inviting. With around 100 horsepower, the 12A engine really wasn't that powerful, but it didn't need to be. In an era when high performance often meant brute power, the RX-7 proved that driving pleasure came from balance. not just raw speed. This could run from 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 9 seconds respectable for its day, and more than adequate to satisfy those in search of a more engaging driving experience. In fact, Mazda even encouraged drivers to hold the RX-7's engine at the red line often, keeping the rotary healthy and reinforcing the spirited name the car had. Immediately, the RX-7 found favor among the car enthusiast and the racer. Its light, rear-wheel drive setup made this car a right fit for weekend track events, and its smooth, high-revving engine gave it a unique character against the competition. RX-7's bold path in the sports car market. Mazda's gamble on the rotary wasn't just about technology, it was about standing out in a crowded market. At the time, many automakers were touting fuel efficiency or massive V8s, but Mazda charted its own course with the RX-7. Its compact, high-revving rotary gave the car a unique personality. Instead of raw horsepower, it was all about engagement and connection. And that's precisely what the RX-7 delivered. Lightweight, responsive steering, and a nimble chassis combined to make the car a hoot to drive. Whether one was twisting up a mountain road or running flat out on a racetrack, the RX-7 was more than just a sports car. It provided something only a few cars could match at that time. The mid-1980s saw Mazda taking the RX-7 to the next level. Internally, this second series is known as the FC and was brought to market in 1985. It's a far more mature and refined car than the first-generation RX-7, borrowing styling and dynamic inspiration from the Porsche 944. The generation of RX-7 was larger, better appointed, and with advanced technology for the time, these qualities right here shared little in common with its predecessor. At the same time, the second generation of the RX-7, which is also known as FC, was also a means to satisfy those looking for a car they could drive on longer trips without sacrilegiously compromising comfort. Of all the many changes that were made to the Mazda FC, one that stood out was the addition of the turbocharged rotary engine. In fact, the new 13B in its Turbo 2 avatar was good for as many as 200 horses, which sets the performance bar pretty high for the RX-7. With this turbocharged and intercooled engine, the less than 7-second 0 to 60 miles per hour time placed the RX-7 right in the company of many of its more powerful brethren. But it was not all about the straight-line performance. The handling was also improved, with rack and pinion steering installed for better response, and disc brakes fitted at all 4 corners for increased stopping ability. The result was a car capable of not only going fast, but also stopping and turning with incredible agility, thus becoming one of the best handling cars of its time. By the early 1990s, Mazda had honed the RX-7 into a product seemingly without defect. Entering its third-generation FD, this now larger 1992 model became an instant benchmark for sports cars.
The rotary-powered RX-7.
Mazda.
Specifically designed with an aerodynamic shape and advanced technology, this became the best of the best that an FD RX-7 car ever produced, meeting, and in many aspects, exceeding expectations. But underneath that sculpted hood lay a beast's heart, a twin turbocharged version of Mazda's fabled 13B rotary engine, humming a sweet tune of 276 horsepower. Far from being a mere sports car, this was actually a supercar in wolf's skin, and from 0 to 60 miles per hour in less than 5 seconds, it placed it very adequately in the echelon of excellence for high-performance times. The twin-turbo setup of the FD RX-7 was no less than engineering genius. At the time, Mazda had used a sequential twin-turbocharger setup, a rather advanced and unusual feature for that period. One of the turbochargers was tuned to operate at low RPMs and hence provided instant torque during city driving and reduced turbo lag. Then when the higher ranges of RPM hit the engine, the second turbo kicked in, providing an in-housing feeling of pure power that made the RX-7 feel alive with every second passing. This twin-turbo system added much to the car's performance by allowing the driver to have the best of both worlds: smooth, accessible power at low speeds and breathtaking acceleration at higher RPMs. This setup gave the FD RX-7 a very characteristic boost curve, making it feel as though it developed a sort of second wind as the engine reached higher revs. Mazda's engineers were very attentive to balance and weight, creating a car weighing in at roughly 2,800 pounds, remarkably light for a car with those credentials and performance. Its low curb weight and almost perfect 50/50ths weight balance, thanks to the compact rotary engine nestled behind the front axle, contributed much to the car's handling precision. From the setup of the suspension to the brake system, everything was fitted to create that balance. hence turning it into a very responsive and agile machine on the road. This was a car much more an extension of its driver down a winding road or on a racetrack, offering a level of agility and control that few cars at that time could match. The exterior design was perhaps the most different for the RX-7 from earlier generations and competitors. It had a near-organic appearance, with its rounded, smooth lines, pop-up headlights, and wide stance, featuring what was Mazda's take on its design philosophy. Kansai engineering. This is a concept that tries to associate the emotional aspects of design with it, really trying to help create a deeper connection between driver and machine. That feeling was evident in every curve and contour, and it cemented the RX-7 as one of the most beloved vehicles in the hearts of enthusiasts worldwide. Its styling became significantly aerodynamically improved and gave the RX-7 a silhouette that was, and still is to this day, unmistakable. Inside the RX-7, things were very minimalist, but focused on the driver. The cockpit design was all about what lay behind the wheel, with its controls ergonomically placed and a low-slung wraparound dashboard which made the setting all Cox-like. Everything was oriented to maintain the driver's attention on the road, further giving the impression that this was a car designed to be driven and not parked. The seats of the RX-7 were supportive but still comfortable, allowing drivers to drive the car hard yet keeping them snug and in close contact with the machine. A farewell to the RX-7. The end of an era. Despite how brilliant the RX-7 was, it did spell the end of the iconic Mazda rotary sports car outside of Japan. In the late 1990s, Mazda came under strong financial pressures, and more stringent emissions and fuel efficiency standards were threatened, especially in North America and Europe. These factors ultimately led Mazda to discontinue the RX-7 in many markets by the end of the decade. Its legacy lived on, however, and it continued influencing Mazda's future models while inspiring a loyal following of fans and collectors that kept the spirit of the RX-7 alive.